But the secret is now out. So please, get and read The Secret War.
Pick up your phone and call right now. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. Once again, that's 800-932-5517.
You're out. All right, welcome to the show. Fifth Street Soccer here on the Sports Byline USA SB Nation Radio Networks. I'm Nick Geber, along with Nick Webster. It is an absolute pleasure to be with you in this first show. Our post-World Cup review is going to take place today. We've got a lot of questions to ask, but don't worry, folks. We're not going to spend the entire hour talking about the World Cup final. We've got so many other topics to talk about. Let's talk about the Fox coverage. Let's talk about Qatar 2022. And in the last segment, we're going to talk about some Premier League transfers. And most important question, what in the name of God is going on at Stamford Bridge? What an absolute unmitigated disaster. Does this club have any class? Does it have any class in its veins at all? Is there any standard, decent standard of operation that goes on at Chelsea Football Club? I ask you that, Nick Webster. We shall answer that this hour, correct?
Yes, Chelsea Football Club. You and I have both had dealings with Chelsea Football Club, and they've been around for about 20 years now, since the filthy lucre came from Russia, and it seems like that could all be coming to a glorious end.
Yeah, hearing rumors loud and clear. I've been hearing them for about the last week that Abramovich has put Chelsea up on the block for sale. He's actively pursuing. There is apparently one very interested buyer. Let's talk about why that is happening. Let's talk about what's going on with Abramovich. But most importantly, Bruce Buck and those people in the front office need their heads examined. We're going to talk about it all. Blues fans, get on the phone, 800-878-PLAY, 800-878-PLAY. Tell us we're wrong. Tell us we're knobs. Tell us we're crazy. But I tell you what, you're not going to tell us that what we're telling you is inaccurate, because it certainly is going to be that. All right, some crazy stories we're going to get to about the World Cup. The media is just having such difficult time processing this 2018 World Cup. It's fascinating to hear it and see it and listen to all the discussions and analysis out there. It really is crazy. Well, Nick Webster and I, we're going to try and put a sane face on all this madness. All right, find us on Facebook. We are streaming live again on Facebook, folks. That's the great news. Facebook.com/Fifth Street Sports Talk. Don't tell people you can't get a human being at Facebook. I got one. We'll be right back after this.
Clear.
Okay.
family came home and saw a guy sunning himself on their lawn, they yelled, "Hey you, get out of our yard." But I know their hearts were yelling, "We were idiots for throwing that lawn chair away. Thanks for teaching us about conservation." Don't toss it, J.B. Weld it.
All right, welcome back to the show. Fifth Street Soccer, Sports Byline USA, SB Nation Radio. A big hello to our men and women in uniform listening around the world on American Forces. Nick Geber and Nick Webster with you in this post-World Cup era. We are going to look back and analyze what happened and ask a few very pertinent questions. Question number one, Nick Webster. France, are they worthy champions or not?
Absolutely. I thought they saved their best for last. Yes, Croatia gave them a heck of a good game and certainly took the game to the French. But if you look at both sides of the ball, and that's what you have to do in this game of soccer football, defensively, the French were very, very good. One catastrophic effort by Lloris, and it didn't really matter. And then offensively, I mean, they found the right way. And you can complain about the free kick for the first goal. You can moan about the handball for the second goal. But ultimately, I think France were worthy winners of the World Cup. They were the best team from top to bottom.
Nick Webster, I agree with you. And you and I, well, I certainly know myself, I believe you were leaning that way as well. Were certainly picking France as early favorites to go really, really deep or even win this thing. They just looked to me like they had the right combination of age, experience, and I think being forged in the crucible of fire in the Euro finals 2 years ago gave them that final piece that they needed to win this match and to win the tournament.
Yeah, they needed that. I mean, you know, we hate to go back to go forward, but sometimes in football, that's exactly what you have to do. And, you know, a lot of the French players actually said that they walked out onto the field in 2016 thinking that the final had already been played and they were already champions. As we know, football doesn't work like that. So I think they came to Russia with a renewed sense of what the game is about and respecting the game. And I think the 2 years difference between 2016 and 2018, we've seen a lot of maturation from the French team, and of course the emergence of a certain Mbappe, and those combinations coming together. And I think Didier Deschamps, knowing that he had some unfinished business as well, really allowed the French team to come together. Yeah, they didn't scale the heights until really the last game. That was probably the most exciting game. But I think there's something to be said for saving your best for last as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Nick, absolutely. And it's important to know also that you and I picked France in regulation, and that's exactly what happened.
And the over, and the over.
And the over, and the over. So we got all of those right. And just want to point out, you know, I'm hearing some absolutely crazy commentary out there. As the media and the relatively new soccer fans and press try to come to terms with what happened at this year's World Cup. And I'm hearing things like, yeah, France won, but the fact that it was all European teams in the final from the semifinals on and the big names were eliminated, it's less of a meaningful victory than what it was. And for me, Nick, I mean, this is the ultimate shill for the status quo that I've ever heard in my life. It's crazy. But I am hearing this out there. Are you getting wind of these same discussion points?
Oh, I'm hearing them, but I think it's nothing more than clickbait. I mean, there's no football to talk about, so let's make something up. Let's pull something out of our backsides and say, well, it's a very poor World Cup, and France didn't deserve to win, and you know the big guns are out. Well, the big guns are out because they didn't perform.
Right, they weren't good. They weren't good.
I watched the World Cup final with a Brazilian fella, and there's nobody I've met who is more, you know, will die for their team more than he will. And the first thing he said was, we weren't good enough. It's the same with the Germans, the same with the Spanish, the same with the Argentinians. The big boys, France excluded, simply weren't good enough in this edition of the World Cup. Now, if we play the World Cup again next week, will they come good? Probably not, because they simply weren't good enough. We've spoken about this over the last month, Nick, of cycles, okay? That cycle That one that just ended, it's gone. And now it's time for Germany and Spain and Argentina and Portugal to redevelop. That's what France has done. France has recovered from the shock of 2016 and redeveloped, retuned, recalibrated. That's what you have to do.
Yeah, and in fairness, Germany did that as well. I mean, I forget the year they had such a terrible showing, but they completely retooled their whole youth system and went back and looked at how they were bringing players through and changed everything, and they ended up winning the World Cup, right? So, I mean, this is what big teams into big countries, big football associations do, other than maybe the FA. But certainly Argentina needs to do that. They have a real problem of youth and young youth and talent coming up. There's not an awful lot of it right now. They need to find it and develop it. And some of these guys, as you pointed out in the last couple of shows, Nick, it's going to be a while before Brazil wins another World Cup. The stars are going to have to align perfectly for them because, yeah, they got some superior standout individual players, but enough to field a full team? It's a question.
Yeah, I mean, I think, David, who was it? Ruud Gullit coined the term sexy football. Who played sexy football? Well, I thought Croatia in spells played sexy football. I think France in spells played sexy football, as did Brazil in spells. But nobody came to the World Cup saying we are playing sexy football. And what we're seeing is that the balance has to be right, and that's why France was so successful in this tournament. When they had to go out and smash a team, they did. They smashed Argentina. They put 4 past Croatia. When they had to nut it down and keep it super tight, they did that against Belgium. They did that against Uruguay. They did that against Denmark. And give Deschamps all the credit in the world. He found the balance. He found the formula. He stuck to it. And France are the world champions, and they deserve to be the world champions.
Absolutely, Nick. Couldn't agree more with you. I hate to agree with you on this show so often, but in this case, I hate to agree as well. In this case, you couldn't be more correct. And on top of which, if you're telling me that Kylian Mbappe going the full length of the pitch at full speed with the ball at his feet, taking on 3 players along the way, is not sexy football, I'm sorry, you know nothing about sports.
No, I mean, great. I mean, I think we tend to focus on the superstars, and then when they don't perform, it's terrible. What's the game?
Actually, Nick, interesting point. Because in many respects, that's been the English mentality all these years. It's the superstars of the game. It's the Beckhams. It's the Gerrards. It's the Lampards. It's the names that we hear over and over and over again. These are the guys. What was refreshing this year, this iteration about England, there really wasn't one of those. But at the same time, there really wasn't somebody at England outside of once we got out of the group stages that was really able to stand up and take the game by the scruff of the neck and drive, with an individual performance, drive the team onwards. It was very much a team effort, but the lack of open play scoring became the Achilles heel of the English team. So it would have been nice to have, a Michael Owen that'll pop up and score those critical goals. I think everyone was hoping Harry Kane was that person, but he really ended up not being, Nick.
Well, to that point, though, I mean, I want to give the English players and management some props, and it doesn't happen often. They were brutally honest.
Yeah.
They came out and said, we're not good enough.
Yeah.
We lack, and the third place game summed it up. We lacked an Eden Hazard. We'll talk about him in further down the line in this show, but we lacked a player of that quality. When Hazard had his opportunity to score, guess what he did? He scored.
Yeah.
When our Eden Hazard, Eric Dyer, had his opportunity to score, yes, I mean, it was a great clearance off the line, but still, Hazard would have scored in that opportunity.
Yeah, right. And absolutely. And Kane had a number of opportunities, and Sterling had all these opportunities to score and didn't manage to.
And because they're not elite players yet, but with the experience they've had, I think they can come through. And I think it's really good that English players and management are being honest and saying, yeah, we're a little short. Because I think by saying that, it's given them a target to go for. They're not sitting back on their laurels. oh, we're Premier League players who are making 150 grand a week. Yes, they are, but they still want to do more at the international level.
All right, we're going to continue the discussion on the other side of the break. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about the Fox coverage. Let's talk about Qatar 2022. So much to get to. Fifth Street Soccer. We'll be right back. You're clear.
To see if you may qualify for your Social Security disability benefits. Call Pinnacle Disability Group at 800-593-7491. That's 800-593-7491. 800-593-7491. Call now.
All right, you're back with us here on Fifth Street Soccer on Sports Byline USA and SB Nation Radio Networks. Also, American Forces. We do love speaking to our men and women in uniform serving around the world, listening to us on the American Forces Network. We're also coming to you on iHeart Radio, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, Twitch, and I'm pleased to announce our return to Facebook Live. By the way, you can find us on the web at fifthstreetsports.com. You can find us on Twitter at Fifth Street Sports, and you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Fifth Street Sports Talk. Hope you'll join us. And also, we're with you every Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific time, and then again at 6 p.m. Pacific time. So that's 4 Eastern and 9 Eastern, Monday through Friday. That's twice a day. If you can't get enough of us, well, we can't get enough of you. Nick Webster, World Cup is over. Two things I want to look forward to. I want to look back at the coverage from Fox. And you and I are both former Fox talent and Fox employees. So for whatever, put that through whatever filter as a listener or viewer of this. Nick, grade the Fox coverage of the World Cup on an A through F scale.
Well, the pictures were fantastic. Nice HD quality. I thought the ambient sound from the stadiums was decent. Derek Ray and Ali Wagner were perhaps the best of the duos out in Russia. John Hurt and
John Hurt?
John Hurts. John Hurts.
Yeah.
No, it's John Hurts. What's his name?
You'll get it.
It's gone. Yeah. Anyway, the main team are, I mean, Stuart Holden was all right. The main commentator was poor. Yeah, it was poor. The studio show, not a big fan of Rob Stone. Think he's just a bit of a frat boy who pretends to know soccer. And of course, Alexi Lalas, who I actually know quite well, is paid to act like a buffoon and does an outstanding job.
I know Alexi quite well as well. And he does rather relish that role, doesn't he?
Yes, and then Fernando Fiore is just a bit, beyond a joke. So yeah, I overall I'll tell the truth, Nick. I watched probably 99% of it on Telemundo.
Yeah, I have to tell you, I was totally turned off of Derek Ray and Ali Wagner on the first England game. I found them unwatchable, and I cringed every time that pairing was doing a play-by-play.
What I just don't understand is why you have to dumb down the commentary and the analysis. I don't understand that. There's enough educated soccer football people in this country now to give them something with a bit of meat on it instead of just this pathetic popcorn. Who are you trying to attract? Are you trying to attract new watchers to the game? You're not going to do that by treating them like idiots, because sooner or later they're going to become educated and they're going to go, why are you treating me like I'm 3 years old?
Funnily enough, I took a lot of heat for my comments about Ali Wagner earlier on, and I don't have a problem with a woman in the booth. I mentioned this before. I thought Julie Foudy was unbelievably good when she did it for ESPN. 4 years ago they had it. I thought she was terrific. I thought her analysis was great. But she got the main part of a color analyst, which was, you are there to describe what did happen and not what should have happened, which means that you have to get rid of the you gottas. You gotta do this and you gotta do that. That's not what a color analyst should be. Number one, you got to explain what did happen. Number two, it's not a talk show over a football match. Let the play-by-play guy make the play-by-play call, and when you have something to elaborate on, some tactical issue that's happening on the pitch that your expertise is going to exceed that of your play-by-play guy, and you feel it's appropriate to talk, that's when you come in, give your quick input, and then back out again. Let the game continue. Don't have a chit-chat behind the game. It just is awful. And the two of them, Derek Ray on his own is a good play-by-play guy. I'm pretty sure Ali Wagner knows a lot about the game, but neither of them shone because of this. I just don't think chemistry-wise they had the pairing. That's just my opinion.
Well, that being said, can we make it a rule that any commentator, be it play-by-play or color, is no longer allowed to say, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
I mean, the most banal comment a play-by-play or color announcer can ever say.
Yeah,
are you kidding me?
It's not their job. It's not their job.
Tournament.
Yeah,
throughout the tournament.
Yeah, it's just not their job to do that. Shut up. We can see the play. You're there for your expertise tactically as a former player, whether it was in the women's game or the men's game as a former player. So just describe what could have happened. The other thing is, this is a personal pet peeve of mine, Nick. Why do we always say that? Well, it came down, he took that ball and he moved it to... Well, no, it's he took the ball. You got to stop that ball. No, you got to stop the ball. Everything's that. You got to smack that booty. I mean, why are we bringing this type of vernacular into our language? It's not necessary.
At the end of the day, if we wanted to do a fan zone, you and I should have done the World Cup commentary for Fox, and we probably would have attracted way more newbies than the numpties that were out there.
You know what, Nick? Let's do this. Let's put this out there. You and I are going to do once a month we're going to do the Nick and Nick play-by-play of a Premier League match. How about that?
I'm down with that. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm down with that too.
We can do it. We can do it via Facebook and not have the images. We're not causing any problems. But at the same time, people could actually listen to our commentary.
Yeah.
And those numpties.
Yeah, right. That's what we're going to do. All right. So that's aside. Now that you've got that, make sure that folks that you pencil that into your calendar and stay tuned to facebook.com/Fifth Street Sports Talk and also our website, fifthstreetsports.com. Nick, Qatar's coming up, 2022. They made the official announcement a few days ago, that it's going to be a Winter World Cup. It was no surprise. What was a surprise to me, and I was wrong, is it's actually 4.5 years till the next World Cup, because it's not actually until November, December of 2022, not November, December 2021. Now, Nick Webster, as ludicrous as this is, as ridiculous as it is, to give the World Cup to a nation that has a smaller population than the number of people that showed up as spectators to this World Cup in Russia, to give the World Cup to a nation that has zero footballing history. I remember when the U.S. got the World Cup, the requirement was so stringent that the U.S. institute a top-level Division I professional football league. Remember this? And Major League Soccer was born. Well, as long as the graft comes hot and heavy, there's none of that needed for Qatar.
No, there certainly isn't. And, even though the tournament is going to be played in the depths of the Arabian winter, it's still boiling hot.
Yeah.
Average temperatures are 30 degrees. And I just
That's 90, right? That's 90 degrees Fahrenheit.
Read a report from the Supreme Leader who they have actually managed to air condition the main stadium. So that's one down. But, with FIFA ready to actually expand the tournament to 48 teams, we're also hearing that maybe the UAE and Dubai are going to take some games if it goes to 48 teams. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So this is a great point. And I don't know, how much time do we have left this segment, producer Andrew?
4 minutes.
4 minutes. 3 minutes. All right, well, let me just say this. It's going to play havoc with the Champions League, the Europa League, the Premier League. They're literally going to have to put these leagues on hold for 6 weeks. It's crazy.
Well, I'm thinking a minimum of 6 weeks, though, Nick, because the tournament itself is going to be a little bit longer.
Right, of course.
Plus, teams need 2 to 3 weeks to prepare for the tournament itself. You can't just go, oh, we're going to play Man United, Liverpool on Saturday, and by the way, it's England versus Brazil on Monday. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work like that. It's a mess.
Yeah, and what about recovery time? You can't expect players who have played in a 5-week tournament to go straight away back to their game. There needs to be 3 weeks on the beginning and at least 2 weeks on the end. So we're looking at 10 weeks, Nick.
The World Cup is supposed to be a summer tournament, Nick Webster. It's designed to be a summer tournament while all the leagues are on break. It is an outrage that they have moved it because of the not because it's in Qatar, not because it's in a Muslim country or an Arab country. I don't personally care about that. But the fact that they are upending the status quo, they're putting these leagues through turmoil. And by the way, and the fact that they've given it to a country with no footballing history whatsoever.
Let me ask you about this, Nick. How are you going to have a viewing party in frickin' Hyde Park in the middle of December? It's going to be freezing.
Oh, yeah, no, it's going to... Well, they don't care about Hyde Park. I think they've made that plainly clear. All right.
Is in winter.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna have to take a break. We're getting hot under the collar here, aren't we?
Yeah.
I know we have a whole minute, but let's just calm it down a little bit.
But absolutely crazy, Nick. Absolutely crazy that
it's madness. And to expand the World Cup, you're going to have Burkina Faso's going to be in the World Cup at the rate they're going. Liechtenstein.
The journalists today, Nick, the journalists today who are complaining that France were not worthy victors because, the big teams didn't show up. What are they going to say when we have so many rubbish games in 4 years' time?
Nick, Everton beat a preseason team 22-0. Did you hear about this?
No.
They beat a team in preseason, like a 4th division team, 22-0. Now, that's preseason, and that's a joke. Can you imagine Brazil against Burkina Faso, and the score's going to be like 18-0. What's the point of that? Why are we wasting time? All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, let's talk about more madness. Let's go over to Stamford Bridge and meet the truly insane.
You're clear.
All right, we're back. Welcome back to the show. By the way, find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Fifth Street Sports Talk. Tal Smith comments about our discussion about Qatar and FIFA and the amount of disruption the 2022 World Cup is going to cause to most of the big league schedules. Tal Smith says, money talks. Football associations need to make a stand. England should boycott, but they won't. And never a truer word has been spoken. They will not, because the great money-spinning machine will continue to spin. Along that veins, if you think that is madness, let's just go across to London a minute, Nick Webster, where 20 years ago, the first great seismic shift in football took place of the modern millennial age, when Roman Abramovich bought Chelsea Football Club from Ken Bates for basically the cost of their rather enormous debt after a failed development at Chelsea Village had failed to take off, and Mr. Bates had run yet another football team into the ground. So Roman Abramovich, the Russian oligarch and billionaire, takes over, pours all sorts of money into the club, brings in Jose Mourinho, goes from a horrible, lackluster, failing club. Mind you, did it the year before Mourinho came in. but to be fair, but change them into a global brand. Nick Webster, that global brand is now on the sale block once again, and what has been a source of media interest over the last 15, 16 years or so is now, in my mind, becoming a little bit of a joke with the situation going on with the manager. Antonio Conte, the manager of Chelsea, who's brought them in a couple of years a Premier League title and an FA Cup title, was unceremoniously fired about 10 days ago because he wouldn't resign, because if he resigned he would forego his money that was owed to him in his contract. It was a stare-down match between him and Abramovich and Bruce Buck. Was finally fired, and Maurizio Sarri, the former Napoli manager, comes in. And look who I've got here, Nick, with me.
Yes,
former...
okay, an escaped tiger. Sigmund and Freud, aren't they just down the road from you?
Yes, that's correct. Anyway, Sarri comes in from Napoli to take over from Conte. Sarri, by the way, an exciting manager possibly, hasn't won a bloody thing in his career, in fairness. But to make it even worse, Nick, the Premier League season starts on August the 10th. That's when the transfer window closes. This man has no time at all. To make matters even worse, and I'm just laying the table for you, Nick, I'm going to let you run with this. To make matters even worse, the primary reason that Conte was fired was because the big names in the club, most notably Eden Hazard, didn't want to play for him anymore. Well, guess what happened at the end of the World Cup? Courtois and Hazard stood up and said, "We don't want to play anymore at Chelsea. We're gone." What a mess, Nick Webster. If you're a betting man, don't bet on Chelsea this year.
Yes, it would be a foolish wager. Look, the revolving casserole of coaches that has gone through Stamford Bridge over the last, in the Abramovich era really has been a sight to behold. And it seems that Abramovich has zero patience whether you win or whether you lose. And he seems to have this ideal of how he wants to think that Chelsea play. And yet he keeps on hiring coaches that can not possibly develop a side in the mold of, let's say Chelsea's greatest rivals at the moment, Liverpool or Tottenham. This high pressure, this exciting, full heavy metal football. Now, unless Chelsea can get some stability, which they're never going to have with Abramovich as the owner, I really don't think this club is capable of getting back onto a sound footing again, because without the Abramovich money, they're not going to be able to attract the big superstars to come to Stamford Bridge. The stadium plans have been put on hold. The youth team, which has developed some great talent, most notably Loftus-Cheek, keeps on farming the best players out to different clubs because there's no room on the roster because all of the high-priced superstars are there. And now, as you mentioned, that perhaps two best players in Courtois and Hazard have decided, they want out. So I don't know how Sarri, who you've rightly pointed out, is going to come in there and turn some things around. Now, from what I've read about this guy, there's a lot of big name coaches who really respect him and think that he has a footballing brain that is a little bit on another level. In fact, Pep Guardiola says he's a little bit of a disciple of Sarri. So it will be interesting to see if he can turn it around. But like you just mentioned, he's just signed on. The season starts in 3 weeks. That is not enough time to teach the players a brand new way to play. That is a process that will take a year, possibly 2 years. And at Stamford Bridge, you don't have that much time available before you get the hook.
It's not even that you got 3 weeks to teach these players a new way to play. You've now got 3 weeks to actually try to buy some players that might be preferred for your system, or players that you want to have. If you remember when Jurgen Klopp came in, he had that same problem. I mean, his first season, he had players that were not his, he hadn't stamped his mark on them. Now, it was certainly a testament to his management style that he was able to do as fine of a job as he did in his first season. But it's hard to do. I mean, just looking at who Chelsea have brought in, Nick, they've spent £51 million so far. Now, these signings are Conte's. These are not Sarri's signings. They brought in Jorginho from Napoli for $45 million. They brought in Kennedy from Newcastle for $9 million. And he's gone out on loan. The only player they've actually brought in that's going to be playing on the squad is Jorginho. And as far as players going out, so far, nothing that we can see of any meaning, except that we understand that Courtois and Hazard have both said they're not returning. So it's going to be trouble. And Nick, the rumor is hot and heavy, and I'm hearing it. I've literally had 6 or 7 different, quote, insider tips, meaning coming from people that I know that are close to that circle that don't want to be named, that are telling me that Chelsea's on the block. Abramovich's failure to get a visa in the UK pissed him off so much after all the money that he's invested in Chelsea, in that area of London, in the real estate itself, in the club, in growing football. He just feels it's a complete slap in the face. He's decided to get out of England, and that means get out of Chelsea Football Club. They are on the block. They are up for sale. There is a very interested buyer. I'm hearing possibly Asian, but I don't know anything more than that. That is all I know at this point. Nick, you hear anything else?
No, I would say that the Chinese Asian buyer is the only logical explanation. I can't see an American plunking down close to a billion pounds for Chelsea, because obviously that's probably what they're worth. Look, when I look at the squad, and I'm looking at it right now, I mean it's still a very decent team, Nick. But as you mentioned, having the coaching ability to get players to buy into your system in the space of 3 weeks is very, very difficult. I just can't see it happening for the Blues this year, and I would not be surprised to see them fall even further down the table than 5th place of last season.
Yeah, and of course, no Champions League football this year for Chelsea. I mean, that's another thing. So it is. I mean, the last 18 years, the staple clubs at the top, Arsenal and Chelsea, are both going through their cycle of renewal. Nick, this goes back to what we're talking about, the World Cup. Things go in cycles. This is further trauma for people that are new to the sport in the last 15, 16 years. It started with Sir Alex Ferguson retiring and the always reliable winning machine of Manchester United going into freefall and just becoming like every other team out there. Maybe one good season, maybe one not so good season. And then it's, of course, you know, it's now happened to Arsenal. Now it's happening to Chelsea. We saw it on the international stage. It's happening. We talked about this. Germany and Argentina and Brazil and Spain and tiki-taka. And quite honestly, are you ready for this, guys? Do not be surprised to see this continue at Barcelona. You know, they've got issues of their own that they have to deal with. Madrid, obviously, as well, with Ronaldo leaving and everything else. You're going to see these changes in football, but man, this is a microcosm of the problems in world football. Chelsea are acting like they are, you know, they are hogging all the newsprint because they are an absolute disaster. Meanwhile, Nick, I ask you this question, and we're going to talk about this later on in the week. We're going to start our Premier League preview for you guys this week, by the way. Do it nice and early. If I told you that West Ham to date had spent £85 million in the transfer market net, would you have believed me?
No, I wouldn't. And, you know, it leads to the question, where are they getting all this money from? I mean, where is it? I mean, really, does the TV company, does Sky just deposit a check in West Ham's bank account for £350 million and say, have at it? Is that how it goes down these days?
Yeah, it's very strange. Well, it's not. Look, it's good in a way. I mean, let's talk about big signings. I mean, Jurgen Klopp has been the busiest man in the transfer market so far, and it looks like Liverpool are going to do the most summer business. I mean, the net amount of Liverpool signings have been £112 million. They bought in Naby Keita from Leipzig. for 58 million. Fabinho from Monaco for 40 million. Most recently, Xherdan Shaqiri from Stoke for a little under 17 million. They were right about to sign Fekir, but he had a torn ACL that hadn't healed properly that they weren't fully convinced of. Nick, the transfer market, it is the silly season. It's going to continue to be hot and heavy until it closes on the 10th of August.
Yes, I mean, obviously the Neymar deal has completely sent the transfer window business completely to another level that we didn't think was possible. So, you know, now £50 million, $50 million kind of gets you a good player. You know,
Yeah.
He's all right. He's not bad. But,
Or Nick, like you and I, an average broadcaster.
that's right, an average, yeah. You know, listen, the Premier League is awash with cash. You know, the new deal has been done again. I don't think actually they made quite as much money as last time from the English broadcasters, but once you factor in the foreign rights, I mean, it's bananas again. It's something in the region of £7 billion. And I guess when you divide that, you know, 20 ways or 23, 26 ways, depending on the parent, it's a lot of money that allows clubs to go out and buy the best players in the world, and they're not shy about doing it anymore. And that's the crazy thing, you know. Back in the old days, you know, the clubs were quite, you know, a bit stingy, really. But now every club has to spend huge money. I mean, West Ham are not a top level club. They're not an elite club. And you just mentioned they've spent 100 million already, and yet
85.
You know, 85. I mean, they should have spent that on the bloody stadium, trying to make it a bit more fan friendly.
All right, absolutely. Listen, folks, we're going to follow the transfer market all the way. We're going to start our Premier League previews this week and next week. So just stay with us here on Fifth Street Soccer. We've got so much more before we even get to the start of the big European seasons. Of course, we will be covering them very closely. I hope you'll stay with us. We're with you Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific time, and then again 6 p.m. That's 4 and 9. We've got to step aside, take a break. We'll be right back to wrap it up.
316-1738. Get your free information by dialing 1-800-316-1738. That's 1-800-316-1738. 1-800-316-1738.
All right, welcome back. Fifth Street Soccer, Sports Byline USA. Nick Webster, we've covered a lot today. Were France worthy winners? The nonsense discussion out there that somehow, because the big boys were eliminated earlier on in the World Cup, it's somehow less value of a World Cup. Nick, the only thing I'm going to say is this. If all you want to do is punch a ticket and turn on the TV every day and see Germany and Brazil and Argentina, or not even then, Germany and Brazil and Spain winning everything, Real Madrid and Barcelona and Man United winning everything, that's not a football that I'm interested in, Nick. There's no excitement to that.
No, there isn't a great deal of excitement. I think that's the beauty of the FA Cup. You know, the one thing that we haven't yet managed to balls up, although we are trying desperately, is that, you know, every little guy should have their day. Yes, they can get smashed once in a while, but it's always great in sports to see the favorites get upset, and that's why we play the game.
Nick,
9 times out of 10 they should win, but that one time gives us all hope, Nick.
Nick, it is the ultimate reality show. There is no scripting here. If you like porn stars or Real Housewives of Orange County, then you're a Barcelona, a Real Madrid, and a former Manchester United fan. You just like the same thing over and over again. You like no excitement, no chance of a change. You want it to feel like it's live, but it's really scripted. Folks, sports ultimately are is the greatest unscripted reality show. The only thing I have to say, Nick Webster, for 2022, come on, Burkina Faso, let's do it, shall we?
Love it. Burkina Faso. And chances are, with 48 teams qualifying for the World Cup, they've got a decent chance.
Absolutely. Well, folks, thanks for staying with us. Thanks for joining us. Fifth Street Soccer, Sports Byline USA, SB Nation Radio, American Forces. We're with you every day, Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern, then again 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on these same networks. Then again Saturday, we're on at 2 p.m. Till 5 for Fifth Street Sports, and we cover all sports. So hope you'll find us on the web, fifthstreetsports.com, Facebook, facebook.com/Fifth Street Sports Talk, Twitter, Fifth Street Sports. And that's it. Till tomorrow, have a great night.
USA Radio News.
There's still talks and relative unease in the stock market regarding a trade war